focus on yourself, on your faith, on your dreams, on your mind, on your health, yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode. There you go. This week's episode of the Ask the Expert Show, hosted by my co-host, Teresa Ream, and myself, Patty Farmer. We're looking forward to sharing today's expert with you, and we really encourage you to not just listen. I like to say listen, learn, and leverage, right? Listen, learn, and leverage, and to connect with her after the show. And if you're not already connected to Teresa and I, to do that as well. We also would like to thank our sponsor, the Professional Women's Network of Monterey. And you can find out more about them at www.pwnmonterey.org. I'm going to pass it over to Teresa, who's going to tell you a little bit about our guest and let you know why you are in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Patty. Today, we will be talking about using short form video and speaking to transform you and your business with Elaine Williams. Elaine is a video and visibility coach, speaker, best-selling author, and comedian. She's helped hundreds of mission-driven entrepreneurs show up powerfully as their most authentic and credible selves on the camera so that they can expand their reach and grow their business. She helps them cultivate their charisma on camera and off. Elaine's spoken in 43 states, 4 countries, and her TV credits include America's Got Talent, Saturday Night Live, HBO, ABC, NBC, Fox TV, The New York Times, Hay House Radio, and the Huffington Post. And more importantly, her clients have too. With her 20 years of transformational training, along with her 30 plus years of performing, she has a vast knowledge and experience that few performance coaches possess. Elaine shows her clients how to be credible and authentic when speaking and how to craft compelling core messages that captivate and keep the audiences leaning in every time. Welcome, Elaine.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Patty.
I'm so excited to have you here. You know, as we were talking a little bit before we got started, I've actually known you for a while. And I think that's really awesome. And I love being able to touch base, have somebody come back into your orbit that you haven't seen for a while. And I really love it. So I can pretty much tell everybody you are in the right place at the right time, because she has a lot going on. And from her intro that Teresa just did, as you can see, 43 states. You're doing international speaking. I actually love international speaking. That's my favorite myself. So I really love it. But I think that really what we're going to discuss today with the short form video, it's really timely. And I think it's very relevant. And it really should be a consistent part of everybody's overall marketing strategy. And whether you're a speaker or not, it really should be a part of your marketing strategy. So I just really love it that you're here. And I love that we're going to go deeper into this. So let's get started, right?
Yes.
So you had a vast amount of credits right there, right? You know, your bio is very, very good. And I really love it. And I love it when I see somebody that does a vast amount of things, right? You know, because I know for myself, people say, oh, Patty, you do so many things. The reality is, no, I do one thing, just like you do one thing. You do it in many different ways. And that's
Right.
really the key, right? That's the key to having people say, oh my gosh, I see you everywhere, right? And I think it's really important. And I think what we're going to talk about today is a really great way that you can spend your time doing something that doesn't take a lot of time and then repurposing it so that people do find you everywhere. And so I think this is really great that we're talking about this right now. So I guess I would say, what is the one thing, the number one thing that differentiates you from everyone else in your industry? You know, there's a lot of talk about short form video. I find that with all of the other things that you've done and as a speaker, that you really bring a voice to this, a different perspective and insight that I think is really important now. So I'd really love to know, what do you think differentiates you from everybody else?
Oh, that's such a great question. Thank you. You know, I think I have used humor my whole life, you know, to sort of deflect and survive. And because I'm in recovery, I am also very spiritual. So I bring spirituality and humor into everything that I do. And I think it really helps there's so many amazing women who are doing amazing work, right? And I know I can get like very intense, like I want to tell you the thing and I'm trying to do it right, especially if I have copy. And I remember I was doing a launch and my the guy who was helping me said, Elaine, you just turned into like a PSA from the 70s. Like you got all weird. And so, and I think we all do that, right? Like I'm good off the cuff, but if I have something, you know, and so I really try to sort of pattern interrupt people. And sometimes if I have somebody who is, you know, camera shy or just feeling very self-conscious, I'll be like, just keep talking, and I'll crack some jokes and I'll be like, keep talking. And then they're like, did we just make a video? I'm like, maybe, you know, because I know what it's like. And so, you know, I just really love using humor in sort of irreverent ways to help people breathe. You know, it's daunting. You're looking in this little dot and there's light. And, you know, one of the things I learned when I'm on a set, so many times, you know, we warm up and we're like, okay, I got my talking points. I feel good. I got my Spanx. My hair's not too crazy. All right, it's going to be a good interview. And then they go, hold. And you're sitting there and you start to, I mean, I know I start to get like, I'm melting, right? And they're like futzing with the light or the airplane is flying over or whatever. And so I learned for me, I need to talk to the person who's interviewing me or do something so that I'm not just sitting there going, you know, and so, you know, I've learned a million little tips like that so that I can be my most expanded, real self instead of, you know, who I used to be 20 years ago. So that's a long answer to your question.
Oh,
But
I
it's a
love
very,
it.
very, it's a very, very good answer. And, you know, it reminds me that the very first time I ever spoke publicly, the person who brought me in as we were driving to the place together, I remember her telling me, oh, and Patty, we're filming it. And not only that, but you need to be funny. And I was like, what? I'm not funny. I remember thinking it very first time I was going to speak. And I didn't really want to be a speaker then. I mean, that was like 13 years ago. Who knew that, you know, that was going to change the trajectory of my whole business. But I remember at the time thinking, I'm not funny, right? You know, although my family, my friends say, oh, Patty, you're the queen of one-liners, which is probably true, but not all of them are one-liners that should be in front of the camera, right? You know, but I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not funny. And I remember that from that experience, the number one takeaway for me was that I should go learn improv. And I suck at it. I never quite got it down, but I will say that taking this 60-minute improv class that I found just really made me realize that it's not about me and get over myself, and people want the authentic you, and whoever you are, they're, you know, your people are going to find you, right? And I think that really helped me to not be so, oh my gosh, I have to be perfect and I need to wear a soap
Right.
opera dress and all that kind of stuff. So I really love your answer because yeah, some of us are probably funnier than others for sure, right? You know, I still don't think I'm really all that funny, although people who know me think I am. I personally don't think I'm really all that funny, but I have learned to let that loosen me up and realize that I don't think it's actually that they want you to be funny. They just really want you to be you, right? You know, so
Yes.
I
Patty,
think
you're funny. You are very funny. She just doesn't know she's funny. Like she'll
Right.
say things that crack me up and we'll all be laughing and she's like, what? What she's talking
And see, and that to me, so to me, we all have the potential to be funny. And the people who go, oh, I'm so funny. I'm always like, ooh, okay, you know, ooh, that's challenging. But if you're just being your authentic self in an emotion, you know, true emotional place, when, you know, being human is frustrating. It's crazy, it's weird, it's angry, right? All these things. And so sometimes if you're just expressing yourself and you're not trying to be funny, that's funny, right? We laugh because it's true. We laugh because we can relate. We laugh because we're surprised. We laugh because you said something everybody else is thinking. And so that's one reason I love humor, because it breaks down the walls and it's like, oh yeah, we're in
Yes.
this together.
I love the combination of spirituality and Humor. I think that's kind of where I live. It's just like, and I too have like recovery time, 34 years, and it's just yay. And it's just, something that just goes together really well. It's like I was at an interview for a Christian school for my grandson, and she says, it's okay if you don't know Jesus, and if you're not spiritual. And I said, the kid carries holy water in his pocket.
Wow.
So I think he's he knows that stuff. So yes, I adore that combination together.
It's
I
so
also think, I also think that sometimes whenever you're in a situation, I find that what I have learned over time is that to get out of my own head, because sometimes when I feel like, oh, I missed that, or, oh, that wasn't what I was going to say, or maybe that didn't come out right, or whatever the case may be, whether you're with a client on the stage, whatever the case may be. And in your mind, you're thinking it. But I felt like, it would, once I actually could relax with that and say, wow, that didn't come out the way I wanted to, or whatever's in your head, guess what? They're probably thinking it too. And even if they weren't, because they didn't know what you were going to say, right? They didn't know what you were going to say, but it has happened to them too. And I think that makes you so much more relatable and reachable, because I think that if you're successful in your business, that can sometimes put a wall up, right? Because people don't see the struggle and what you did to get there. They see like this finished, product after you are successful. Some of them have been on your journey, some of them not. And they're thinking, oh, well, I could just never do that, right? And I'm thinking, and really, I think when you can share and be funny and sometimes make fun of yourself, if, not in a really put yourself down way, but, just kind of, hey, the journey is kind of funny, right? If you think about it, we all didn't have this perfect, road to get where we are. I think it makes us relatable, and it teaches and models for them that they can be okay too, if everything isn't perfect for them. So I love that.
It's so true. And because, when we first encounter somebody for the first time, a lot of times we have our arms crossed and, it's like stranger danger. And if somebody comes on the stage, especially, or on camera, and they're too perfect, a part of me is already like, I can't relate. So, I was working with a client, and she was like a scientist. She was like brilliant and beautiful and in amazing shape. And I was like, okay, so most of the women are going to hate you when you first walk on stage. It's just what, it's like the cave woman instinctual thing. So if you can crack some kind of self-deprecating thing about, you should have seen me an hour ago, I was covered in milk from my toddler or whatever, then we can go, now I can hear you, and and I'll just joke, like I did, some of the things I plan and some of the things that's totally off the cuff. And about, I don't know, 6 months ago, I was like, do you ever do that thing where you warm up, you put your makeup on, you do your hair, you're like, I'm doing my elevator pitch, I know what I'm going to say, I'm grounded. And then they finally get to you and you sound like a valley girl. Or like, what was I thinking? I'm so mad at myself. Anyway, I just was like in the moment being super authentic, and it got so many views. So it's like, you want to be giving value, and it's also really great to share your humanity. Not all the time. We don't need to see every meal you eat. Like some people get a little too crazy with that. Like, give value, share a little about yourself, give value. There's a fine line for every brand and market. But, and I guess one thing I wanted to distinguish, when I talk about short form, I mean 58 seconds or less. And here's the reason why. And you may be going, that's not enough time, but you can edit. There's so many cool things. You can take out the breaths, because how long do we have to grab them on social media? Some say 3 seconds, some say 1. So here's a super tip. So in the old days, you would practice breathing. Hey, but that took a second. So now you want to be like, let me ask you a question. You want to grab them right away, stop the scroll. And so you can do something interesting. Some people do this. Some people knock. Some people are like, hey, have you ever wondered, I'm not saying you need to do that all the time, and it might not be on brand for you, but you want to be creative in ways that you can grab people and bring them in. So I just wanted to make that distinction about
Great tip.
the 58. Yeah.
That is, I hope everybody was listening, writing that down, right? That is a great tip, really, because I think that people think that on video, they have to be this, I have to tell you, really, I had been on stages for probably 10 years before I ever did my first video. Like, I just really was hung up on doing video.
Yeah.
But part of it was because I thought that because I'd been on stages for 10 years, that people would have this perception of what
Yes.
they would expect me to be on video. And it wasn't that, right? It wasn't that. And so, that was a real struggle for me, but I had to just kind of get over myself. And I actually love that short form video is in now, because I think it's a lot easier to talk for 58 seconds than it is for 5 minutes. It's so quick, right? So I think that that's a good space. It's a good thing. I really like it.
And the old days of the 5-minute talking head, so what I love too is you can literally be like, hey, let me ask you a question. Stop. And you can look at what your next thing is. Have you ever wondered about short form video or whatever? And it's okay to be choppy for the social media stuff. Like, I used to spend hours editing so there would be smooth transitions. And now it's like, we're so used to choppy and fast. It's okay. In fact, our brains kind of like that there's something new a lot,
That's a great tip too.
Yeah, there's so much more freedom, and you literally can look down. I'm a big fan of like Post-it notes. That's another thing. People either try to wing it, which can be dangerous and rambly, or they try to pack way too much in. And so I'm a big fan of like, having a hooking question, telling, one person, one problem, one solution. And then it's okay to recap if you have time, and then do a call to action and sign off. Like, keep it simple. We want people to be bingeable so that they're like, oh my God, what Patty said was so amazing. Where else can I find her? Oh my gosh, I just found this woman, Teresa. I have to binge her. That's what we want, right? And that's what the algorithm wants. They would rather you watch all of a 30-second video than half of a 90-second video. The algorithm wants, so you want to make every second count and breathe, it's okay. Like, it's like, you want to be intentional, but don't get into analysis paralysis. There's a middle ground.
I love it. Be bingeable. Be bingeable.
Be
I love
bingeable.
it.
Yes, that's really good. So Elaine, if you had to say, what would be 3 to 5 words that best describe the value you bring to the marketplace?
3 to 5 words. Find your voice. Own your power.
Ooh, good one. I love it. Love, love, love. That was really good. So with that said, leads me to my next question is, as an expert, right? We love it when we get testimonials, right? We get testimonials. So what's the best testimonial or compliment you've ever received from a client?
One person called me scrappy, and I thought that was fitting and funny. And another woman said, we'd been working together for 3 months, and I was coaching her whole team, and she let her team leave. And she said, Elaine, I have to tell you something. You have pulled out things and stories from me I didn't even know I had, or that I was capable of sharing. You have opened me up. And that is like,
that's powerful.
That is.
I feel like, like one of the top regrets of dying people are that they weren't truly authentic. They were trying to please other people, and they didn't want to disappoint other people, and they didn't get to share their true voice. And I'm like, let's get that out. Don't quit your day job yet, but like, let's get you to the open mic. Take the guitar lesson, go take singing, go whatever is your thing. Don't die with that song in your heart, Oh,
I love that. I truly love that. I've been trying to live that and really focus on that this last couple of weeks for some reason. It's just come to me. So yes, right message at the right moment, Elaine. It's
I
great.
love how that shows up, don't you? That is beautiful. So you have been giving us so much value already, but do you have like a favorite business tip or a resource that you find that, you know, as a speaker and as an expert, that you really feel like people need because you seem to be sharing it? Like when people ask you, they ask you like the same thing. And so you kind of find that there's this really juicy, compelling tip that, you know, I think that sometimes we don't, whatever our expertise is, I always like to say the thing that comes most naturally to you is the thing that other people will pay you for, right? So sometimes we don't really think it's all that juicy
Right.
and compelling, right? Because it seems so easy to us, but it is the thing that people will be like, oh my gosh, right? You know, so what would you say is like a juicy business tip or a resource that you find that you share and people are like, oh my gosh, that was gold?
All right. Well, I love to remind people you're swimming in your own genius and you can't see it because you're in it every day. And so I'm a huge fan of lists. And if you have a hard time, do it with a buddy where you can even interview you. You know, what do you say all the time as a parent, as a coach, as a colleague? You are, you know, what do you say that you don't even think about? And that to me, that those are your slogans. What do you, you know, what quotes break your heart? Like anything that really speaks to you. And there's so much there. So people report over and over that I help free them up because they get, you know, sometimes I think people get like, oh, I have to think about my messaging. Oh, I have to think about, oh, I have to smile more. Like there's so many things to think about. And it's like, there's that happy medium that I keep talking about. You know, you want to craft some things, but they don't need to be etched in stone. You know, keep breathing. And so once I love to unlock people and then they're like, oh, I forgot about this story and this client. And, you know, we all have so much to say. We just need to get it organized. So that's one thing. And then, you know, I love to share about CapCut, CAPCUT. It is an app for the desktop or on the phone. And I love it because it is, whoops, I'm trying to bring it up to show people. It's white with a little black squiggly thing, and it's free. And it's a great way. Okay, here's super tip. So all of the platforms, whether you do TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the above, some of the above, YouTube, whatever, all the platforms do not want the other platforms' logos. They won't show it as much. So if you can shoot on your phone, then you can edit in CapCut, take out the ums, the ahs. It's very easy. It's very user-friendly and it's free. Then you can export it back into your phone photos. And from there, you can put it. So you think about what's one piece of content, what's one story, one tip, here's my pull back the curtain of like, this is my setup, whatever you want to share. And then you can put that so many places natively, which the algorithms like much more. So CapCut and then capturing your own genius, and just notice, because your imposter syndrome or your inner critic is going to go, oh, everybody knows that. But as an adult, don't you need to hear things over and over again, right? And people need to hear things from you because nobody else is saying it like you do.
No,
Oh,
I agree with
amazing.
that. One of the things I always like to say all the time is you're not reinventing ice cream. You're just creating your own flavor. Some people like chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, but some people like Rocky Road and sprinkles, and they want marshmallows and they want hot fudge. So all you got to do is just figure out what is it that your audience wants, or find the audience that is the ice cream flavor you are. And, you know, nobody really these days, come on, how many people come up with an idea that's never been thought of before? It's really how you're going to implement it really to the people that you serve, right? And so I think it is really important. But I got to tell you, something you said made me think of something. So as a speaker, when you were talking about story, I remember that when I would hear people speak, and they would sometimes have these amazing little stories that they would put in, And I remember I used to ask myself when I first became a speaker, which I think is funny because it's the question I get asked all the time from people who hire me, right? They'll ask me this question all the time. Which comes first? Do you write the speech and then look for stories? Or do you have stories and like literally curate or create stories of your life? And then you can put them in. Because like I know that was a struggle for me in the beginning, but I remember thinking, I'll just give an example. Like one time, no, not one time, many times, my parents used to say to me, Patty, we'll give you $5 if you could just be quiet for 30 minutes. I never, ever got the $5 ever. And I used to think, I think I actually grew up thinking I should be quiet, right? And so it wasn't until later on I realized that nobody was going to shut me up and, you know, I had a voice, right? But I wouldn't have known where to put that story. Like, I mean, it was just like something that happened. But I noticed that I started not really sharing like on a platform, but just sharing, and people be like, oh my gosh, Patty, that's a great story. I'm like, really? Like, you know, I didn't think the story was all that great. But then I realized that in a lot of ways, maybe somebody hasn't had their parent tell them that, but there's other examples where they felt they didn't have a voice.
Oh,
And so I
yeah.
think a lot of times just those funny little things that have happened to you in your life, people will relate to them. So to get back to the question, do you feel like a tip specifically for people who are speakers or are doing video, so those stories are really good and can make people laugh too, right? Because humor can be there. Which should they do first? Understand what the content they want to give and then find the stories, or like think about the stories they have and then create content?
Ah, such a juicy question. I'm like, I have a whole course on this. So I think it's great to have, simple, because I think speakers forget this. Okay, who is the audience? What are their pain points? What does the booker think their pain points are? Because many times that is different, right? And so where do you want to take them? And again, it doesn't have to be Shakespeare. This can just be super like bullet points. So, okay, I want to inspire them to take action and make a video by tonight and post it, which is really terrifying for some people. Okay, so that's the and so then I will, I make a list of like, okay, I talk about when I got sober in New York City and then I became a comedian and then I went on the college circuit. And then, there's some stories I tell a lot. And sometimes if I'm speaking to a group who's already heard me, I'm like, I'm sick of my stories. I got to get some new stories. So for me, it's kind of like both. And ideally you can tweak a story, you can have a little bit of artistic license. And, there's some stories that are just fun to tell. And sometimes I'll be like, I'm kind of working on this. And people will, say, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Or that's great. It's very hard to work on your own stories. That's why I'm a big fan of like, get a coach, get a speaker buddy, get a mentor, because you're in it and you're attached to it because it's you, which is why it works. You cannot tell other people's stories. It's way harder. We need that emotional charge. And that's why it's nice to have somebody else who can be objective and say, okay, you don't need to go into all the detail about what shoes, color, cut that out. Again, so grateful because as a comedian, I didn't know how to write, and every word in a joke, so a lot of times I would write this joke and then I would slowly trim it to make it so much more powerful. And so I'm grateful for all of that pain.
Because that's the same with your story, right?
Right.
You did that. And when you tell the story, you got to realize that we get caught up in the details, and I'm kind of chatty. So that was definitely something I had to work on. Is like,
Yeah,
how
we can lose
just...
people. We lose people with
Yes.
too much.
Yes, absolutely. So there's
Elaine,
once
Elaine,
again, the messy middle. I keep bringing people back to the messy middle.
yes. Elaine, one thing that I always remember that you taught me was one person, one problem, one solution when you're talking into the camera. Because if I'm talking into the camera, I don't want to be thinking if Aunt Millie and Uncle Joe is going to like this. I'm going to pick up that one person and talk to them. And that's so helpful.
Yes, I did a lot of commercials in the 80s and 90s, and you walk in this thing and they would say, pretend like you're talking to your best friend and like you're having coffee. And, Sheridan, I've been meaning to talk to you about Colgate. Have you tried it? Because try it, like just lean in like you're having coffee. And to me, it's grounding as opposed to thinking about the World Wide Web, which is just daunting. And, keep yourself grounded and focused on that one person. It will help.
That's really good. So I have to tell you, with all these things that you're doing, I really love the value that you're bringing, but what do you love about your business right now? I mean, we have all these things that we got going on, but right now in this moment, what are you loving and what's next?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So one of my VIPs, Heather Seitzwolf, she is so amazing and creative. And she was a clown with her mother. And then she went to fashion school. And then she went and became a bookkeeper. And now she's become a business coach. And it is so much fun. Like every week she's like, okay, I have this podcast coming up, or I have this speech coming up. And so every week I'm like, okay, what do we have coming up? And I help prepare her and craft the things and think about the timing and and we tweak her stories and it's just so fun because she's super creative and coachable. And it's like every week I'm having this Disney World adventure. And so I love that. And then I also have a client who is 84. She just finished her 3rd book. She is a numerologist, an artist, and a coach. I know her from Debbie Ford. We got certified together 15 years ago. And, never too late to learn technology. She is 84 years old and she is like on Instagram. And, I have to repeat things sometimes, but I just love her attitude and her passion because she really wants to get this 3rd book out because it's important. So I just, I feel
love
so
that.
honored to get
it's so great when I always like to say it's been very important to me. And many, many years ago, I made the decision that I would only do business with, only have clients, only speak at, blah, 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 to things that bring me joy. If it doesn't bring me joy, I don't have time in my life for that. I don't care what they're willing to pay me. Like I just, and I can really hear it in your voice. I can see it in your face, and I have to tell you, we never know how much time we have. And it's really great that, we get to spend our day and our nights with the people we love, the things that bring us joy, the people that bring us joy. And when we can have that joy in our business too, and know that you're bringing that joy to the people you serve as well. I mean, it's just exciting to even just hear about it. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. So I know that the people who are watching are going to want to connect with you. So could you tell us what your website is and what's the social media platform you're the most active on? We'll have all your information everywhere else. So if people are just listening to this, just know that we're going to get you all that information. But what is your website? And if we were going to go to a social media platform, what's the one you hang out with the most?
So my website is captivatethecrowd.com. And if you come and grab the Captivating on Camera checklist, you will be enclosed in the fold. And I do a lot of community stuff. I do a free masterclass every month to give back and inspire people and give people tune-ups. And I am mostly on Instagram under Elaine Williams Fun. And I used to have a really cutesy name and nobody could find me. So, you want to, it's okay to rename yourself, learn from my mistakes. So Elaine Williams Fun on Instagram. And I give tips, but I also share humor and inspiration and all kinds of things on there.
I just love that because, it's not, I'm sure you're not the only Elaine Williams, right? Just like I'm not the only Patty, right? So putting that fun after there, they're like, oh yeah, that's the right one. Right? That lets them know that it's the right one. So I really love this. And now it's time for the lightning round. So, okay, Teresa, take it away.
Ready? Yes, it's time for our lightning round. And this is where we ask our experts to answer questions with a brief 15-second short and sweet answer. So Elaine, you are just so full of energy. And we want to know, what's your favorite way to unwind at the end of the day?
I love a good yoga class and meditation and Netflix.
Oh,
Good. Love.
I love it. It sounds great. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
I am morning. I drive people crazy because I'm like, good morning, let's
Oh,
go.
Hey, I'm the 5 a.m. club myself, so I got it.
Awesome.
In 15 seconds, can you tell us what's the funniest thing one of your clients has ever done that you just went, oh,
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I think just doing, some short form video and being in the moment and dancing. And, I just was surprised that they went for it, and it was great and it was fun.
oh, that's amazing. Is there a question that you would have liked us to ask you? Sometimes we finish and as guests, we think, oh, I wish they would have asked me this.
Yes. I want to talk about shame. And I know this is supposed to be quick, but I had buried hidden
No, this one
shame.
doesn't have to be quick. So.
Oh, okay. So I had buried hidden shame for lots of reasons. And even though I had been in recovery and done lots of therapy and personal development work, I got into flipping houses in 2008, worst timing ever. I wanted to have a comedy club for females, and that was my vision. And then, I was grossly extended with 4 houses, rehabbing 3 of them when the economy tanked. And it took me 10 years to kind of get out from under all of the financial stuff. And I had a lot of shame, and then I had lost my self-trust. And so I just want to tell anybody who's listening, every entrepreneur has made so many mistakes and spent so much money. You are not alone in that. I have hired the wrong people again and again. I finally learned that lesson. You name it, I've done it, except get married. That's the only thing I haven't done that I haven't screwed up yet, because I haven't done it, right? But just knowing you're not alone, and get the lesson, forgive yourself, release the shame, because we need you. We need you to get over yourself, because entrepreneurs are how we're going to help save this planet. So release the shame, get the lesson, move on, turn it into a book or a TV show. That's what I did. And just know, don't let that stop you, because it really had me stopped for a while.
That is
Thank
amazing.
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. What a beautiful way to end this segment. And I thank you very much for joining Patty and I on today's episode. And now I'll turn it back over to Patty.
I have to tell you, Elaine, this has been really fabulous. I've enjoyed every single moment of it. I think for the time you opened your mouth to this very second, every single thing that came out of your mouth was value, right? I'm going to listen to it over again myself. It was that good. So I really love it. So thank you so much for taking the time and being here with us and being so open to share. And I actually did love your message to share. I think it is very important for people to really understand that it doesn't matter what happened in the past. Turn the page.
Yep.
There's even a song called that, right? Turn
Yeah.
the page, right? New chapter, new book, right? Because I don't know about you, but every one of us, I always like to say that if I wrote a book on my life, it would be like a bestseller, but it would have to be a series, right? Because we just have so much, right? And so
Right.
I think that was really important for people to hear. So thank you so much for being vulnerable and authentic in sharing it. We appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. And I can't wait to follow and learn more. And I can't wait to meet you in person.
I know, I can't wait that too. And to our audience, we thank you too. We thank you for showing up week after week after week, trusting Teresa and I to know that we're going to use our expertise and within our network and out to bring you who we think you need to meet, right? Ask the expert, because we all know that if you want do-it-yourself efforts, right, you're going to do it yourself, but you're going to get do-it-yourself results. So before you can hire an expert, you need to ask an expert. So we wanted you to have that space to be able to do that. So thank you so much for being with us here today again. Thank you so much, Teresa, for sharing the microphone with me. Thank you to our guests. We love hearing from you. We love hearing from you. If there's anything that you would like to see, like to hear, like to watch, please let us know. Thank you again to our sponsor, PWN at pwnmonterey.org. We'll see you again next week.
You gotta focus on yourself, on your faith, on your dreams, on your mind, on your health, yeah.